Hi, everyone. This is Sarah McElroy from Raised to Rise, and I could not be more excited for the powerful story we're bringing to you here today. I am joined by the incredible Diane Gatza from the Los Angeles area. Diane was up until recently in a full-time role as a civil engineer, but she felt a calling for something greater. And so now she has leaned in to launching and running her own affirmation card company. She's seen smash success so far, being featured in Women's Day magazine and Voyage LA, and we could not be more excited to have her here with us. So Diane, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be able to be a part of the Raise to Rise community.
Awesome. Thank you. So, a little bit more about Diane. She is the founder of Confident Cards, a brand of daily affirmation card decks designed to support individuals who feel alone or who just need a little more encouragement to tap into their inner strength with confidence. Diane is a passionate warrior and advocate for cultivating inner resilience and sharing her own story vulnerably in the hopes that no one feels alone in their current life circumstances. In addition to founding and running Confident Cards, Diane is a mother of two, a licensed civil engineer, a Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer survivor, an avid dancer and disco lover, and a hype woman style motivational speaker. So, Diane, that is basically the best bio ever. I cannot wait to get started and to start learning more about your story and tapping into all your wisdom.
Oh, thank you. I love when you say that. I get excited just hearing it. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Awesome. Good, good. Well, let's start with your story then. If you could take us through a little bit of that move from being a civil engineer, being in kind of the typical 9 to 5, and now moving into Confident Cards, would love to start with that.
Well, I wish I could tell you that I've been dreaming about creating cards my whole life. Like, I wish I had some kind of beautiful poetic story and journey about when I was small. This is something I've been visualizing my whole life. But I have to say, it kind of came on rather suddenly in the last few years. I will say this though, my whole life, I've always felt like there's going to be something I'm going to do that's going to be like really passion filled and really fun. And
Okay.
I've always enjoyed giving back and being of service. And I think for me, I went into engineering. I think I always knew that it wasn't really for me, but I landed in roles that kind of suited me for a period of time. So I was always in like creative roles, always had really strong mentors that somehow I seemed to get attached to, that, took me along and helped me rise through the ranks. And, everything always worked out until around when COVID hit. And then it really provided that space, like I think it did for a lot of individuals, right? Where we weren't going to
Sure.
the office 8 to 5 every day. We weren't in our commutes doing breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, dinner meetings, happy hour meetings, conferences, like all of that busyness just
Yeah.
really paused. And then I think it gave me a lot of space to just be like, okay, this is great. What am I doing here? And I really had achieved all the success that I had been looking for. I worked my way all the way up into upper management, and I could kind of see like, okay, I could make it a little bit further. And what does that look like? And then I started asking myself, why do I want that? And like, is that life really something that I want to live? And I actually had a great mentor who really shared with me what it was like to kind of be at the top,
Mm,
and the struggles, not just all the success and the money and the accolades and the press pieces and the this and the that, but like what it really looks like. And then I started asking myself, is that something I really want? And then it was like, no, the answer was no. And I thought, okay, well, I went for all this schooling, everything for all these years, and what am I going to do now? And yeah, it really put me on a big path to start asking a lot more questions about who am I? What am I doing? What do I love? Uh, which led down a whole mindfulness journey, really, and sort of a spiritual awakening of sorts, through having postpartum depression with my son when he was born in 2019, right before the pandemic. And
wow.
yeah, really finding mindfulness tools and really leaning into that space. That was not something I had ever been about. if somebody had said to me, I had a spiritual awakening, or somebody had said to me, like, Diane, you should really just meditate, or I don't know, kind of talking about these types of principles, I would have probably said, like, are you in a cult? Like, I don't get this. Like, I was totally asleep. And yeah, that's where I found my strength. That's where I found who I was. And yeah, just long story long here is that during COVID, I spent a lot of time every day at 11 in the morning. I meditated with a group, um, online, virtually,
Oh, cool.
studio that's by my house that I'd only been to once, but she started doing stuff on Instagram, and then it was like $8 a class. I was like, okay, I'll just sign up for this meditation thing. Why not? And it was the same three of us every single day at 11 a.m. meditating and talking. And there was something magical about that moment. And this went on for months, every single day of the week.
Wow.
And Monday through Friday, I should say. But like taking that time to meditate and really tune in to myself. And then I started meditating on my own. And, I found a lot of card decks at that time, also two different spiritual decks that were like really speaking to me. I used to pull a
Cool.
card every day from a Gabrielle Bernstein card deck. And I thought, well, one time when I was meditating, I really wanted to figure out how to help moms. And I thought, okay, what am I doing here? Like, I need to figure this out. I want to do more. And I got this voice or thought about, hey, why don't you make some card decks for moms? And then from there, it just kind of spiraled. And here we are 2 years
Wow.
later, and I'm still doing that. And now I'm doing it full time.
Wow, that is so amazing and really very cool. I even personally have gotten into card decks a bit myself lately, and it's just such a powerful way to kind of connect more deeply with your intuition. And I love that so much. Now, so after you had that realization and that nudge that says, make decks for moms, how long from that point then did it take for you to start actually putting one foot in front of the other, moving in that direction?
Actually, from the moment I heard that, I didn't want to do it. I was like, no,
Okay.
no, I'm too, like, honest. This is 100% honest. I thought, like, no, I'm too good for that. No, I'm not gonna make card decks. Like, I'm an engineer. I don't make cards.
Yeah,
No. And look, I'll tell you too that when something is like knocking at your door, if you don't answer, I feel like it just keeps knocking, keeps knocking.
exactly.
And that idea would never go away. My husband was like, why don't you just do it? And I was like, okay, well, I don't even know where to start. I've never making cards or fabricating a product. It's never been something I've done, but I'm an engineer, so I solve problems. So I'm like, okay, we can figure this out. I found a game board company out in Michigan or Wisconsin. I can't even remember now, that makes like playing cards and game boards for people that come up with their own games. And I reached out and said, can you make these cards? They're like, sure. So I made one deck and created some graphics online on like a free platform software. They look nothing like what they look like now, but it was just something to start. And then I posted it on my Instagram when they came in. I was like, this is so cool. Like, something that was in my head is in my hand. It took like 2 months to get. And I didn't use any hashtags, no nothing. And I had all these people like, where do I get one of these? What is this? This looks, and I was like, what's
Oh,
going on here?
cool.
Yeah. And then I ordered 100 of those, sold out of almost all of them. And then I was like, okay, maybe and I wanted to like up the quality to like, some of the other decks that I use that like feel really high quality and feel like a real experience. And then that set me on the path. So I'd say from then to now, that's been almost like about a year and a half from like when I made that first deck. And I'll tell you this, when I was selling those, I use that so loosely because I was not, I mean, I was selling, I posted about them and then I had a Google form. That's how you
Oh,
signed up to buy
I love
one.
it.
You filled out a Google form because that's all I knew how to do. I didn't know how to run an online store. I didn't know what platforms are. I didn't want, and I want to pay for anything. So I had an online form and people would just Venmo me. And it was like, okay, I don't even know how to do shipping. I'll just go down to USPS. Like, knew nothing. And yeah, people were signing up for my Google form saying they wanted card decks. I mean, I was pretty blown away. So I thought, okay, this is pretty clunky and somebody wants to send me money for this thing, like, okay, this is great. Like, let's keep doing it.
Wow, that is so amazing. Well, I can totally appreciate that because that is the entrepreneur's journey is like that leap into the unknown and the uncertainty, and you just got to get comfortable with figuring it out, right? Because you're building it from scratch. And I love that you were buoyed by that experience to keep going and to keep building. So how did things evolve from there, and how did it start to become, I'm going to leave being an engineer and lean into Confident Cards full time?
Yeah, so I'll say I never was like, I'm going to leave my job to make cards. Yeah, that was never like on my list of things to put on my resume. But you know, what ended up happening was the more I started doing it nights and weekends and early mornings, my kids were asleep, I was having more and more fun doing it. And then I was having less and less enjoyment out of my other work that I had previously enjoyed. And I found myself just being like, man, I wish I could do more with the cards right now. If I could only put more time into the cards, like, and it became a slow progression. Like maybe I should really be pursuing something else. And I'll tell you this, I never thought I would leave my job. I want to be very clear.
Wow,
You know, I made a decent amount of money. I had made it really high as a female working in engineering. Not only that, but
absolutely.
I worked in politics and planning, and that's like a whole nother beast. And it was really fun. I had a blast, but it started to not feel like my calling anymore. It started to feel like, no, this is not for me. And I never thought I was going to leave because I had a great job, security, I had a pension. I mean, I had everything you could imagine, a mortgage, kids, like everything. So to start thinking I'm going to leave to do cards, it took me quite a while. The progression just started being like a slow creep. It wasn't just like a moment when I was like, this is it. But I did have one of my good girlfriends. She's one of my best friends. She left her engineering job and we went to college together. In fact, we worked for some of the same people in the industry over different times in our careers. And she's like, I want to leave my job. And I was like, what are you going to do? And she's like, I want to get on a sailboat and sail around. I was like, you're crazy, girl. Like, what do you mean? You have such a good job. We have it so made in the shade. What do you, and then, but you know, just hearing her say that and then talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. And then she started taking steps, small steps, started doing it. And then November 2020, I think is when she took off. And that was it.
Okay.
She left her job and she's still
Wow.
sailing around the world now. And here we are. It's like she's been on a boat for 18 months. She just sailed across the Pacific Ocean. She did the crossing. I mean, that's the biggest crossing that you can do on a boat from Mexico all the way around.
Incredible.
Yeah. And she's still going, you know, and she's not destitute on the side of the road. Like, you know, when you see somebody that's made the leap from such a secure, safe, high paying job, and then they follow their passion and they still are standing, I think it gives you a little bit of confidence to say, like, wait, why am I not
Right.
doing that? You know, and then for me, the slow progression was just, okay, well, maybe I could leave my job. What would that look like? How would that feel? And I was like, ooh, I would love to work for myself. That sounds like so much fun. There is a lot of creative potential in the roles that I played at my previous employers. However, you're still working for somebody else, right? The
Right.
ultimate freedom is being an entrepreneur. And that's like the ultimate terrifying thing. Part of it too is being an entrepreneur. It's not just, you know, having the freedom, but like it's both sides. It could be the ultimate success or it could go the other way. So it took me a while to just get comfortable with that. But I'd say the biggest step was getting down on my financials and figuring out what does it take to leave. And I think a lot of women and men out there that are contemplating, like, maybe I would love to pursue this passion I have or this or that. The number one thing I hear from people is, I can't afford it. It's great for you, Diane. I can't
Totally.
afford it. I can't afford it. I had a really well paying job. We have a mortgage. We have 2 kids. Like, you know, we're not, you know, celebrities or like rolling in dough. We're just normal citizens here. And I was able to do it. I know other people can do it. And what I did is I got down to like, what do I actually make at my job with benefits, everything, all in, my health insurance, everything. And can I make that somewhere else? And then what do I really need to be making in order to cover our expenses? And another big piece of it was like retirement. I think I grew up in the generation being born in the late 80s that, my parents were very much like, you need to save up everything you can for retirement. You need to have so much money for retirement. And I never thought I could leave a job because I would need to keep saving for retirement. And I just went through what I've already saved and projected it out into the future because I love numbers. And I was like, I'd be fine with everything I've already saved, even if I never put another dollar in, I know I would be fine. So I thought, okay, we're gonna figure this out. And we started getting lean and mean with our expenses and figuring out what we were spending. We refinanced our house because mortgage rates were going down, sold my car to pay off our other car, and bought 2 cars with cash. Like, yeah, it's not so like glamorous. It became what becomes more important for me, having this nice car or following my dreams. And it was like
Right.
following my dreams. So we're going to do it. And I know that if I look back, on my deathbed, and everybody talks about that, like, I want to look back and be like, man, I went for a ride in this lifetime. Like, that was fun, instead of I wish, what if? So I think once we got down to it and we made the moves, and then it was like staying at my job became not pointless, but it became to a point where we were already secure. So it was like, what am I waiting for? It's time now to do it. So once we shored everything up, it was like, okay, it's time to take the leap.
Very cool. Well, I think you had mentioned when we spoke previously that you all took like 2 years to make the plan and execute against it, which I think is really impressive as far as, your engineering mind logistically getting things planned out and then saying, this is the discipline we're going to put against this so that we can achieve it. And there's something to be said for the baby steps, because when you're on the outside, and I'm talking to all kinds of women who have made leaps of different kinds, but when you're on the outside, all you're seeing and observing is the big move, the big jump, whatever it might be. But what we don't know about are all those little behind the scenes baby steps that it takes to get there. And being patient with that can be a huge piece of this journey. I think you also called out another really powerful piece, which is the planting of the seeds. I think it's huge, not only for us and expanding the possibilities in our own mind of what's available to us, what we could really do, because we build these boxes of what life is supposed to be and what the expectations are and what's the sort of safe path. But then the seeds start becoming planted, and as they start to grow, to your point, as you're moving forward with your engineering job, it's kind of like, why am I doing this anymore if I don't need to and it's not what's lighting me up? Sharing your story here, someone will hear this and be like, okay, I think I can do this too. And it's just about building that confidence and building the strategy and then executing against it.
Yeah, there's another term I like to use that I learned in a workshop that I went to called bridging the belief. If you're familiar with some of the works of Abraham Hicks, and like, it's bridging the belief, getting from like, I could never leave my job, no way in hell, to like, I am a successful entrepreneur. But how can you bridge the belief to get to a place where you're like, oh yeah, that's real for me. Like, well, I am in this job right now. Okay, what's one thing I could do? Well, I could look at my expenses every month. I could spend time to put a budget together. I could spend time to figure out what I'm really actually making here. I could put together a list of the things I'm really good at and where I could be making money. Oh, where have I made money in the past? Oh, that's right. I had a side business years ago, or I did this little thing, or I used to sell cookies at a bake sale. And then you start bridging the belief to get to that place of, it is possible for me. I can get there. And by seeing, expanders, these individuals that are out there that are doing it, living the life you want, and how they did it really helps you to see that it is possible for you. Like I said, I'm telling you, I was the most asleep pension employee. People called the golden handcuffs at my job. I also had people telling me too that I was crazy to ever
Wow.
my job. So that's another thing I think a lot of individuals and entrepreneurs, when we are thinking about leaving our jobs, there is this expectation that like you need to have a secure, safe, like reliable source of income with a paycheck every 2 weeks and whatever benefits and things. And I've had a lot of people say to me, "You're crazy. Why would you ever leave this job?" I'll share this. This is actually something that was hard for me in the moment. Now I kind of laugh back at it. But my grandma sent me an air fryer in the mail. And I was like, "Thanks. I don't have an air fryer. Like, what's this?" And she said, "Look, I heard there's a lot of money to be made if you can make carrot fries, like just like sweet potato. Maybe you should do that instead of the cards because I think you'll be more successful doing that." And I remember being like,
Oh,
"That's my grandma, right?" Like,
oh,
because I think also an engineer and being in engineering is perceived as so safe and stable. You hear about people talking about the big three: doctors, lawyers, engineers, right? And then you hear about people in other countries that are like their dream is for their kids to become an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor. And I'm walking away from something like that for, right, the unknown, something that has no career path. So anybody who's out there that's thinking like, yeah, if you ever share your dreams with somebody and they don't get it, that's okay. It's not their dream. That's not what they're meant to be doing in this world. That's what you're meant to be doing. And you have to like stay steadfast in that. Don't share your dreams if you know that that person can't support it, can't see it, can't be like your cheerleader with you. Don't share it. But I'll tell you this, the minute I left my job, I had a lot of people just be like, "Oh, that's great." Like, that they wanted to say something cringy, but they actually held back because they know that I'll probably, ask them a question back or two. But then once I left, now nobody says anything. Everybody's like, "How did you do it? I want to do it
yeah.
too. That's so fascinating. Wow, I'm so impressed. Can you help me I mean, I don't have a single person saying I can't do it anymore. It seems like once you make the decision and you do it, where do those people go? I still have some of those people in my life, but they aren't saying those things anymore. They are now fascinated by it because they're like, "Well, she's on the journey already. And maybe that's possible for me too." So I find it very interesting that when you're thinking about leaving, it might be perceived by some other people as like really scary or nerve wracking. But then the minute you cross over, they really have nothing to say anymore.
That is so true because I think it's like you start to see yourself or the part of yourself, whatever parts of you that you've held back and you haven't leaned into whatever passion, dream, anything along the way in your life. It's like you see somebody finally doing it and it just becomes, okay, maybe I can learn something from this. I think we get really caught up in our own projections too, which I think you make a great point with the story about your grandmother in that she's got probably ideas of what stability should look like and she only wants the best for you, but it doesn't mean that she's tapped into your dream and what you know you're capable of doing and how much planning and time you've put into it. Obviously, this wasn't an abrupt, rash decision, and humans are so well-meaning, but it's fascinating how anybody else can think that they can tell us how to live our lives or that they know what's best for us. It's just not the case. So good for you.
Yeah. And just one other little point on that. In all of my cards that I create, in the inside of the box, it says, "I have all the answers within," because I believe that we do. As humans, we always know what's best for us. Haven't we ever been in a situation where we gave somebody we know advice that worked for us and it didn't work for them? Then they're like pissed off
Totally.
or whatever. And they're like, "Well, that didn't work." We're not meant to be telling other people what to do. We're meant to hone in and know what we should be doing and stop outsourcing our power to other people. Like, "What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do?" I mean, look, you can go to 10 doctors and they'll tell you 10 different recommendations, right? And that's a medical professional. You think that that would be like
Right.
a one-stop shop, everybody says the same thing. If that's not the case in the medical profession, it's definitely not the case when you're talking about movies and art and like what you should be doing with your life because everybody's going to have a different perspective.
Oh my gosh, that analogy is so good. It's so true. There's subjectivity in even the most objective things that we think, as far as like a professional telling you what you should do. Why would we trust anybody else to tell us how we should be living our lives? That's a really great point. Really great. I think that's been such a common theme in the interviews that I've been doing is that even if women aren't specifically speaking to more of that sort of intuition and inner knowing, they may not be using the words of that. They're talking about it though. There's something within them that they just know they have to make a move. And so I think it's a really uniting force that we should all be coming back to ourselves to make decisions for what's best for us and for what's to come.
Yeah, no, that's what it is, the intuition. And I'll also say this, I didn't always feel like I had intuition. It was for sure always there. Now, kind of being on the other side of things and like being more spiritual and being more in tune with what I like, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and actually making decisions based on what feels good. I realized my whole life I used to outsource my power to so many people, employers, parents, teachers, other employers. When I was a kid, you know, jobs I had, everything was, even if I was a Girl Scout leader. I mean, I always thought somebody else knew better for me than I knew for myself. And now I know without a shadow of a doubt, I know what's best for me more than anybody could tell me what's best for me. So my grandma can send me an air fryer and I just think, love you, grandma, you know, you just don't get it. And that's okay. She's not meant to get it. She's on her own path, pursuing her own thing. And that's okay, because I'm so steadfast in knowing what's right for me is what's right for me. And I think sometimes too, like my parents will look at what I'm doing and, you know, they were so proud. Their daughter's an engineer, so excited. But following my own heart and my own path and the way I run my own business is unique. And it's what feels right for me. And what somebody else does and how you run your business and all these other individuals out there running their businesses is going to be what's right for them, you know, and holding that steadfast and strong and just being unshakable about it took some time, but that's where the strength really is.
I completely agree. It's like being unwavering and continuing to come back to yourself over and over again and come back to that knowing when the chaos is spiraling as it absolutely can as a new entrepreneur. There's lots of crazy and uncertainty. It's like just keep coming back to that because you'll know what that next right move is or that next right step is if you only do that one thing of coming back to Diane.
Yeah. And the best part is, and I think this is why a lot of us don't pursue our dreams, is because what we're thinking about doing doesn't make sense. Or it's like, why am I having this thought to do this thing? Well, that's not my path. That's not what I'm projecting with my mind where I need to go this way. And I think as humans, right, we like certainty. We like knowing, we like having a path, a clear path to success, to safety. I mean, that's what it all lies down. We want safety.
Exactly.
Safety. And if that intuition says, quit your job, get on a sailboat like my friends did, a lot of people are like, nope, that doesn't sound safe. So I'm not gonna do it. Like, no way. Quit your job, make some cards. Like, no way. A lot of individuals might feel like that voice is not for me because it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't make sense. It's not on the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan that we think we need to have all figured out.
Totally. Well, I think about that too, that there are so many people who have gotten that voice over the course of history or whatever that sort of nudge was. And because they leaned into it, we have innovation and invention and powerful companies that have changed the world, people who have been leaders and advocates in social justice and human rights, that if people hadn't followed those nudges, we wouldn't be here where we are today. Because you know that everybody has fear when they're stepping into the unknown, the uncertainty, and into their power too, if you haven't lived in it before. Because that's a really scary feeling too, to all of a sudden say, I'm going to tune out the external world and what everybody else thinks and just listen to me. And if you haven't built that sort of self-trust and cultivated that over an extended period of time, it's like, oh my God, red lights flashing. What are you doing? And so I think there's just such powerful truth in knowing that if nobody else had taken the leaps that they had, they wouldn't be there and our world would be very different. So why don't we do the same as well?
Yeah. And our gifts are all so unique, right? What you are meant to be
Yes.
doing in this world is very different than what Diane is meant to be doing in this world. And everybody else that's watching this video or tuning in, we have to honor that I'm not meant to be a Sarah. I'm not meant to be the person down the street or who my parents think they want me to be or whatnot. But developing, like you said, that self-trust, that's something I never had. I always outsourced, like I said, my power, my intuition. I always thought, oh, my dad, he knows what's best for me. Or, oh, my boss, he knows what's best for me. Like, where should I want to be in 5 years? I don't know, wherever they think that I should be, because I just want to keep progressing. And there's always somebody there to knock you back and be like, no, 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 don't dream too high. Don't dream too much. Or this is the path for you based on your skill set.
Right.
They're not in your heart. And so I've had to cultivate that in the past couple of years, and it is terrifying. And I'm not going to lie, there are still days when I'm like, am I crazy? I kind of think maybe to be an entrepreneur, you do have to be a little crazy, like a
Sure.
little daring, not crazy, but just brave. You have to
Right.
be brave. And I don't think bravery is just doing something you don't want to do and doing it anyway. Bravery is following what you really know you need to do, feeling the fear and still doing it, not doing something you don't want to do because somebody else tells you should do it and just doing it. That's not bravery. And I think it takes a lot of guts to keep going as an entrepreneur. And I'm not immune from feeling fear. Some days I'm like,
Totally.
is this what am I doing? But I'll tell you this, something always comes through. Something always happens. There's always the next step that is put right in front of me. And I've heard this from Oprah Winfrey. I've heard this from loads of speakers. You just need to take one step. And then the next
Exactly.
step will then be revealed to you. You don't need to have a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan like in corporate America. Just one step. And then watch, something will happen and the next step will be there. Okay. And then the next step and then the next step. But now I'm sure, like you, looking back, I could never have planned out these steps. They were so bizarre,
Completely.
yeah, and divine at the same time. And it all worked out perfectly, even the bad things too. And there were setbacks for me, absolutely setbacks. And I don't like to look at them as like setbacks, like a real negative thing, but hard things that happened for me, rejection, people saying like, nah, I don't want to carry your cards in our store. No, it's not a good fit for me, telling me no, or whatever. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is so hard. Like, I just want to wilt. I just want to like cave in. But now I look back and I'm like, ooh, glad I didn't end up there. Ooh, glad that didn't work out, because I would definitely wouldn't be where I'm at now. I wouldn't have made this pivot over here to this step. Everything happens for a reason, right? And I like to believe that rejection is a form of protection. So anytime I'm rejected from something, I'm like, thank you, must be being protected from somewhere I'm not supposed to be, because there's something better that's supposed to happen. And something always does, right? So
Yeah. Or I've heard rejection is redirection. And I love both of those because I think you're 100% right. I'm very similar to you in that I'm not engineering, but I have been corporate America, very business planning oriented. And I always had to know what the plan was going to be and not one step ahead. That's way too scary. We're talking many, many steps ahead. And so to actually just take that one little baby step and know that if you hit obstacles along the way, it's likely just redirecting you to a better path. I think having the trust in that is critical. So thank you for bringing that up. You've shared a ton of learning so far, but let's move into kind of like advice for other women who might be in a similar place. What would be your one biggest piece of advice to them if they're looking to do something similar to you?
my biggest piece of advice would be learn how to ask yourself good questions. Um,
Ooh,
I think that my whole life I lived not being able to ask myself good questions. Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to even eat this for dinner? Why do I want to go on that trip? Why do I want to own this car? Why do I want to live here? Why am I working this job? Like, why? Right? When we're kids, I have a toddler. He says, why? All the time. Why this? Why that? We're so brilliant as small children. And then it's like we lose that inquisitiveness, right? But learn how to ask yourself better questions. I'm in this job. Why? Well, I got a degree. Okay, but why did I get that degree in this thing? Well, that was the role model I had when I was growing up. Like my dad was an engineer, right? So, okay, well, why did I decide to follow through? Well, I didn't think I could get out after I spent 5 years in school. Well,
Mm.
like I was already committed. Like I couldn't back out now. So then why did I go get my license, my professional engineer's license? Oh, because I was told that's the right thing to do. Okay. And then, but why? And then why do I want to be the manager here? Then asking these questions and then just drilling down. And then I got to a point where it's just like, I don't know. And I think when we can start asking ourselves really deep questions and actually having the guts to answer them honestly and be really brutally honest with ourselves, I think that's when we're going to find where we're supposed to go, what direction we're supposed to follow, how things are supposed to start unfolding. And I always hear from a lot of individuals, how do I know what I'm supposed to do? I'd be like, girl, I don't know, because I still don't know. All I know is that I'm following the next thing. And I always ask myself, what's my intention when I'm doing this? How do I want to feel when I'm doing this? How am I being of service? And as long as these things are all in line, I feel good about it. And I'm really excited about what I'm doing. And I have to keep that as my guiding compass moving forward. But if I wasn't asking myself questions like, why am I writing an email newsletter? Because I hate writing email newsletters. But no, because I need to get my message out. No, because I need to know and tell people that I'm here. I need to be sharing my brand story because it's important for people to connect. So these cards end up in the hands of the people that really, really need them. And they need these messages today. So that's why I'm writing this MailChimp newsletter that I do not enjoy writing, but I do it, and I'm not good at it. But that is why I'm doing it. And versus I'm doing it just because, or my dad, someone told me to do it, or whatnot. And I think being able to just ask really good questions is something really big. I'm also mentoring right now a young woman through my sorority, and she attends one of the big universities here in Los Angeles. She's also an engineer. She's getting ready to graduate, and they paired people up, the same major, right? And she's getting ready to graduate. And I asked her, like, okay, so what do you want to do? I love this because I see so much of myself in her. Well, I want to get a good job. Then I want to work my way up, and then I want to get to management. And then I, would like to have kids. And I'm just like, so why do you want those things? And she's like, well, because it's going to be a great job, whatever. I was like, so why are you in engineering? And she's like, well, my mom, my dad are engineers. I'm like, oh man, I'm looking at this mirror.
Yes.
But the answers are just, there's no like soul in them. And maybe her calling is absolutely to be an engineer, but just being able to talk with her and hearing what she says and then asking her these questions, I'm seeing a side of individuals where it's like, we just always thought that this is what we're supposed to do. This is a good thing. It's a safe job. It's a safe path. So I'm going to do that thing. And I see it all the time. And I don't know that a lot of us were raised with conscious parents. I think it's becoming a bigger thing now, becoming a conscious parent and being consciously aware.
Sure.
But back in the day, it was like, get a good job, go to college. Like college is not for everybody. I also feel very strongly about that. If my children came to me and said, I want to go to college, I'd be like, great. What would you like to do? What are you really passionate about? Where do you think you can make a difference? And where do you think you could support yourself? How could you make money? Where do all these things transact? But back to the story with the mentee, just asking her these questions, you start realizing that we don't ask ourselves any of these questions. And here she is about to graduate with an amazing degree from an amazing school to go into a line of work. And she's trying to decide between different jobs. And I asked her, why do you like this one? And why do you like that one? And the answers are all like, well, the people here are really nice. And this company, they get to work on cool projects. But you start realizing that we make decisions in our life just based on what life is supposed to look like.
Exactly. I think that's what changed for me too, was finally when I was having so many health issues from overworking and getting shingles and ending up in the ER. I had to finally ask myself why. I hadn't really ever pinpointed why those, I mean, aside from just like baseline health, why those moments were so profound. But I think you actually just hit the nail on the head with that, is that it made me for the first time say why. Sarah, why are you working up to 20 hours a day? This doesn't make sense. Why would you compromise your health to do that? To your point, it is the little kid continuing to ask why this, why that, over and over again, because that's like the thread you start to pull on the sweater, and all of a sudden it's like there's no sweater anymore because I never asked those questions. I built my life on what I thought it was supposed to look like without ever asking, is this what I really want? Is this what I'm passionate about? Can I be of service in that? And I think that's really fabulous advice.
Yeah, it is so deep. I mean, but how could we ever ask ourselves these questions if we weren't asked them as children? Like, we were told, get good jobs, make money, have a family, whatever this little dream life is supposed to look like. And then you get there, at least that's what it was for me. And I'm like, looking around like, okay, I got the perfect life, but I'm not really happy with it. And then I also asked the question, what would I rather have? Like, would I rather have, yeah, this nice car that I have, or would I rather have a less nice car, another car, but like be working at a job or doing something that feels really meaningful with my life every day? Yeah, that's what I would rather do. And I don't really care anymore how my life looks to other people. I don't really think about it. I just keep following that passion. But being able to ask the questions like, why am I doing something? Or what would I rather have? What feels better to me? Like, instead of just blindly following some path that we're on that we think we can never turn back from. I thought I could never do anything other than being an engineer. And to your point about what are other pieces of advice for other women that are out there, I recently had a friend reach out to me. She's been a teacher. She got a master's degree in teaching, undergrad, master. She's been doing it for 8 years. She's amazing with the second graders. And after I left my job, she reached out to me a couple weeks later and she's like, I want to do it. I want to leave. And I was like, man, I'm really excited for you. This is amazing. And she's like, I just don't think I have any skills that I could parlay into anything. I thought, what? Are you kidding me? You have got an undergraduate.
Amazing skills.
Yeah. I was like, what are you crazy? She wanted to go into the food and beverage industry and work for a local winery. And she would kind of go in entry level, starting out serving wine at events and things like that. And eventually she's like, I want to work my way up and see where it goes and have fun. And I never thought about it before, but she had told me, she's like, being a teacher, you just come in and you're a teacher. Unless you want to become vice principal or principal, there really isn't like career growth. She's like, you can kind of bounce around to different grades, but you're not moving up. And I never really thought about that. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I love expanding into new things and growing. And you're in a job where that opportunity isn't there for you. It's very limited with options.
Right.
So she sat down with me and she's like, I don't know how to say what I did in teaching. It has nothing to do with food and beverage. I was like, girl, you managed all these second graders all day. How is that any different than managing some buzzed up folks at the winery that are having a good time? Like, you're all these kids all day. You're going to be great. You know, we went through how to convert the skills, or at least just how to take the skills that you have right now and how can you apply them to something else? Because I think we look at it like, this is all I can do. But really, you're always selling something, your job, yourself, right? At your employer and all these different things. You can apply those skills into other fields too. So I would just tell all the other women out there that are listening, just to not sell themselves short and to really know that the skills that we all have are amazing. And by the way, she got the job. They offered her the job on the spot.
Love it.
Not surprised.
That is so awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. It used to be you're going to be in one job with one company for your entire career. And then it became you could maybe switch companies every, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, and then it's gotten shorter. But now, honestly, I think career agility is the name of the game, and learning how to parlay whatever skills you've acquired into new opportunities that light you up even more. I think it's really hard actually to expect that we as humans, as much as we grow and change, especially if we're leaning into personal development, I think it's impossible to expect that we would just have the exact same career for our entire lives and be happy with that. And so I just love that your friend's been able to do that. You're taking your engineering skills for solving problems, parlaying that into confident cards. It's just being open to what the possibilities might be and not selling yourself short is great advice.
Yeah. And I'll leave one more little nugget on the advice front, but is like feel the fear of something, because we all get scared, nervous, whatever that feeling of fear is, and do it anyway. Do it. It's like, you know, when you go to the high dive and you get up to the top and you freeze and then you finally jump off. And when you jump off, you're like, I want to do it again. That was so much fun. Or maybe you jump off and you're like, I never want to do that again. That was great. I'm glad I did it. The end, you know? I feel like you have to feel the fear and do it anyway. And I remember the first time, so my cards are a physical product. And I remember the first time I was like, okay, I have them. It was exciting to get them manufactured, to figure out the logistics, how I was going to get them, all the financials of the ordering and how much I need to charge. That was in my wheelhouse. I was like, cool, got it. Now I was like, I need to sell these. Okay. Well, I'm great at consensus building and I used to do lots of different like workshops and all kinds of things. I'm great. I can sell lots of stuff. I had never sold to a store before. I don't even know how stores buy items. How do people buy online? No idea. And I remember the first time I had my cards in my hand, I went into a store and I remember I was shaking. Like probably they maybe didn't know, maybe they did, who knows, but walking in and just being a beginner again is so effing humbling. It is next level humbling. I went in where like I could run a meeting in my old career as an engineer, like in my sleep. Walking into a store, a small business by me. I'm not going into Walmart or Target. I'm talking about like the mom and pop, you know, gift boutique down the street from my house. Hi, I have this, I'm a creator and I have these cards. I was terrified. And being that beginner helped me build confidence because you know what? Yeah, I got some no's, absolutely. And was it really nerve-wracking? Yes. But did I get back up? Absolutely. Because I was like, I have to keep going. I have to. And then once I got my first one, it was easy. Like the minute that first person was like, I love this. Yes. How do I get them? I'm like, oh, I have some in my car. And they're like, great, I'll take 10. Okay, that's it. Like, how do I get, now I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't think anyone would actually say yes to me. How do I get payment? How do I collect payment? Like, you know, and then it started. And I just think being able to acknowledge that we're not going to be the all-star number ones the first day we get out there, but you got to get out there. It's the Brene Brown, you know, you got to get in the arena. Till someone else is in that arena, they can't say anything to you because you're the one getting bruised and going bare knuckling in there and speaking your truth and following your passion.
Exactly. And actually, Brene came up for me as you were saying that too, because I'm doing the Dare to Lead training right now. And we were talking about courage, and there is no courage without vulnerability. And you go through this assessment of where you look at your organization. And on one side of the scale, it's armored leadership. And it's kind of like the not vulnerable lockdown version of leadership, or there's daring leadership, which is where we're openly embracing vulnerability to be able to tap into courage. And one of the things that is an assessment question in there is about, are you open or able to be like a beginner and not know in your organization? Like, is it okay to be like, I don't know, but we'll find the right answer? And it was amazing to look back and think, I've been in organizations, many organizations, where people were scared to not know. And we're taught that once we get to a certain place in life and in our career, being a beginner isn't okay anymore. But we have to continue to be a beginner throughout our lives if we want to grow. And it's just something to be embraced, and like the messy, and you may not be good at it, but at least you're trying, you're getting in the arena and you're going for it. And that's what flagged for me is it's a hard thing to unlearn that behavior, which we had been taught for so many years. That's not okay to not know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is okay to not know. And you know
Yes.
what? I almost think like now I look back and I think that version of Diane that she got up and she went door to door. That took
You're
balls for
so proud
Diane.
of her.
Yes, that version of little Diane, oh, like a year ago, that was amazing, you know? And now,
Yeah.
whenever I am faced with something hard, a hard decision, a hard whatever, rejection or something, I think back to like, man, if I could go door to door with like cold walking into stores and make sales, I probably converted on like 80% of the places I went into. Like it became like I was a machine. You build up that confidence, and the confidence is magnetic. Once you believe in it and you're like, I can do this, I believe in my product, I have all this experience behind me. All these people have said yes already. Of course, this person's going to say yes. Like, you just got to go in expecting for the best. And we prepare for all the worst always in life. And
It's so true.
yeah, I don't do that anymore. I plan for things to work out. And I'm always like, how is this going to work out for me today? What is my best possible outcome? That's what I'm preparing for because that's what I want to see happen, not the negative, you know?
Ah, I love that so much because we prime ourselves, our brains seek out the expectations that we lay in front of us. They seek out the experiences that we're almost creating around us of sorts. And so it makes so much sense. Lean more into the positive. It's okay to be scared and it's okay to not want to get your hopes up and have them be dashed. But if you go in confident and magnetic, imagine the energy that you're bringing into that versus walking in. If Diane had walked in and said, oh, this isn't going to work out for me, people can sense that timidity, that meekness. And instead it's like, she knows what she's doing and there's something magical here. I want in on it. So I love that.
Yeah. And I think everybody out there that's listening can harken back on at least one time in their career that they're at right now, whether they are happy there or not, when they became a subject matter expert in something. I don't care if it was the filing system of your electronic file structure, okay? If you were like, man, I know this so well, and someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I got a question. And you're like, oh, boom. Like you're going to click here, then you're going to do this, you're going to do that, do these things. Then you speak with conviction, you speak with confidence, you convey, I know what I'm talking about, and you feel good after that interaction because you're like, I was able to help this person. I got my stuff down, I'm good. That's how it feels once you become confident, and then other people are drawn to that and they can feel it. Like you're saying, like if I just was all meek and
Exactly.
help me, please, like I don't know, people are, I don't know, feel sorry for maybe me. I
They're like,
suppose.
who's this lady selling confident cards, but she's not confident. Like you embody that brand, right?
Yeah, that's it. And I remember I used to give loads of presentations, always speaking at conferences and all kinds of things, and these programs and projects that I was running all these years. And I'll tell you, I always practiced the night before. I would always practice my presentation the night before out loud in my hotel room, like as if I was presenting in front of 2,500 people, like in my hotel room with just me, myself, and I. And I would tweak things around or whatever. And that way, when I got on the stage the next day and I was giving a presentation, I was confident because I already knew the material. I knew what I was saying. I knew the cadence I wanted to have. I knew the talking points I wanted to hit. It was just like, yes. And the times when I didn't practice, or I just, it was new material, or I just put a whole brand new PowerPoint together on something I really didn't know that well, it came across. And the times when I was well versed and speaking with confidence and didn't need to look down at my slides or didn't need to do anything, I would get people coming up and offering me jobs. Like weird stuff would be happening, right? Because they can feel that you know what you're talking about, versus after a less than desirable presentation, people are like, hey, see you at the mixer tonight. You know, like that would be it.
Sure. Right.
That was it, right?
Well, it's setting yourself up for success. It's that self-belief, but also knowing that preparation, I don't remember the saying exactly, but luck is preparation meeting opportunity. And it's got to be both. You've got the trust and you're anchored in what you believe in and you know what you're doing, but you're also preparing in the right way so that you know when you walk in, you've got it. And I think that's spot on.
Yeah, it's just that inner confidence. And it can be in
It is.
any part of our lives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so tell us, where can people find confident cards?
Yes. So confident cards are a line of daily affirmation cards, as you beautifully put it in the beginning. I love that, your little intro. But right now we have our flagship deck, the Confident Mom, available at www.confidentcards.org. And we're actually getting ready to drop some new different decks that are coming out for the confident entrepreneur and the confident cancer fighter. So I like to create my decks based on experiences that I've been through in my life, where I'm like, where you got your grandma sending me the air fryer, right? I needed that positivity, not the like, hey, why don't you try something else? So these are the words I wish somebody had spoke to me during these times of my life, when I became a new mom, when I started my business, and when I was going through cancer treatments and things like that. So I've got a bunch of new decks that are getting ready to be dropped here soon. So check them out, confidentcards.org, or I guess on Instagram too, I'm confident.cards. You can follow along there for my journey. I share a lot of my honest entrepreneur ups and downs and kind of exciting pieces of what goes into creating the cards and I guess running this business.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Diane. I'm so inspired by what you're doing. And I think so many other women can relate. And just the passion and the heart of taking your own experience and infusing that into these cards, that's magic that you're bottling up basically to give to people. And that's such a beautiful healing gift. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for sharing your wisdom here today. We will be sure to link everything with Confident Cards so you'll be able to find them and purchase them. And thank you again, Diane. Loved having you here today.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.